What's going on, everybody? Mr. Thom here again for another Photoshop tutorial. So today we have Photoshop Intermediate Level 2 tutorial, and in this tutorial we will be going over the clone stamp tool, the smudge tool, and different brush types. So whenever you look at this image, if you've ever been to this specific location, you'll probably see what's different about it now, but for now, hopefully, all of you are looking at this wondering, yeah, it looks real. When in reality, this is actually the lighthouse. So let me switch over. So in reality, the lighthouse is actually on that land, not on that little tiny island rock. So today I'm going to be showing you how to essentially move things around in Photoshop and make it look like it belonged there its entire lifetime. So let's get started. All right. The main tool that you will be learning today is the clone stamp tool. So this will be our final product, and this will be our starting point. All right. So what we will do is, let me go ahead and X out of this. That way you could follow along, starting from the beginning. So this will be our end goal here. We're going to take the lighthouse and scooch it on over to the rock island. So first things first, everybody, please file new for me, create a new document. I'm setting up this document on standard letter size piece of paper, so 8.5 by 11, but I set it up landscape. So be sure that width is 11, and be sure that height is 8.5 and resolution's 300, as well as you got your transparency. Again, at any time during this specific video, please be sure to pause if you ever get lost inside of any direction. So, at this moment, if you would like to pause the screen to set up your document correctly, please do so. Once you have your document all set up and ready to go, you can go ahead and click OK, and you will have set up your workspace for the day. Now, in order to get that stock image, I did go back onto Google here, and all I did was search Portland Lighthouse. So please be sure to search Portland Lighthouse. And I know immediately a couple of you will probably search that and say, Mr. Thom, I can't find the specific picture that you used. Be sure that you have tools active right here, right under your little search bar, and you have selected labeled for reuse with modification for your usage rights. All right, if you do not do that, chances are you are breaking some type of copyright law. All right. So once you have this specific lighthouse all selected, it should be that very first photo there. You can right click on the image, save image as. Hopefully all of you know how to do this by now. Name it something that you will remember inside of your drive, hopefully in your graphics folder. All right. And to just show you all a little bit of a trick, rather than going into Photoshop and file placing, if you use Google Chrome like I do, I think Google Chrome is possibly one of the best web browsers here. What you can do is you can actually take this little download indicator down here in the lower left-hand corner, and you can click and hold and drag that downloaded file over into Photoshop, lift it up into Photoshop, and then release your mouse, and it will automatically place it for you. So that is just a nice quick way if you're using Google Chrome to file place anything. For anybody else that was using Internet Explorer, you will have to do the old way, which is just file, place, find the file, and once you select it, it should pop up the exact same way. So let's go ahead and go through our little motions that we normally do here. Hit and enter once we have it sized correctly. It was automatically sized correctly just the way we downloaded off of the internet, which is awesome. And we must rasterize this layer. So please right-click on the words of the layer. You can see we have that little tiny piece of paper representing that this layer is currently a smart object, which we cannot edit. So we must rasterize the layer. All right, now that that's good to go, now we can actually begin to edit. All right, so first things first, everybody please activate your clone stamp tool. It's this little stamp right below the brush tool. If you click and hold, you may notice that there's also the pattern stamp tool. So if your little icon looks like this, I would like you to change it over to the clone stamp tool. All right. Now, as with most tools that you'll find here in Photoshop, you can actually adjust the brush size. So everybody please adjust your brush size to roughly around 50 pixels or so. All right. And I would like you to change your edge hardness to around 75%. This creates a nice fine edge, but we still have a little bit of gradient going around our brush, so that when we begin to copy anything, it doesn't look like it is accidentally placed there. It has that nice smooth transition edges. If you move your brush pretty quickly, you should see a little bit of a gradient, a little bit of a gradual change around the edge of your brush. All right, so let's copy this lighthouse. Let me show you some cool tricks here. So first things first, basically all the clone stamp tool does is steals pixels from somewhere else in the image and places them somewhere else, all right? So how we select the pixel location that we would like to steal from is go ahead and hold Alt on your keyboard. So I'm going to go ahead and hold Alt, and you'll notice that your brush turns into a little crosshair icon. Please hover over, while holding Alt, the center of the lighthouse and click. All right, now that I've clicked in the center of the lighthouse, now I begin to tell the software where I would like the proportions to be. So what we're going to do is, it's kind of like we're stealing from this location and placing it over here on the rock. So you want to kind of guesstimate where the bottom of the lighthouse is, and right where you began to steal your pixels, you want to transfer to about the same height over on the rock, okay? So I'm going to start right there, and I'm just going to click, hold, and drag, and you can see a little tiny crosshair appears right where I began my Alt, and if I move my brush down, the crosshairs move down, and it's showing I am stealing these pixels and placing them over here. So I'm going to copy this lighthouse, but I am going to avoid that house because a house probably couldn't fit on this island. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way down towards the near base of my lighthouse. I'm going to continue off to the side. We got a little bit of that, and I'm click holding and dragging this entire time. We got a little bit of that binocular or telescope. Sightseeing telescope in there. That's fine. We can get rid of that later on. So notice I'm kind of sticking as close as possible to the edge just so that I have that nice fine edge going on there. I accidentally copied a little bit of the trees in the background. That's fine. We'll get rid of that later. But I'm just going to be even more careful in the future here. Just making sure I get just a little bit of that edge of the lighthouse there. Key here is just to go as slow as possible. That way you're being as accurate as possible. All right, so I'm working my way up to the lighthouse. I'm on that second floor now. Want to make sure to get every little detail that I possibly can. The lookout tower right there. Another observation tower. Get where the actual lamp is, the roof. I'm starting to copy clouds. Whoops, but that's okay. Get the little steeple. All right, go down the other side very slowly. And all I'm doing is I'm actually looking over here at the crosshairs, and then I'm really quickly glancing over here, because you can see if I look at my crosshairs, I'm accidentally going to copy a little bit too far over. So every now and then when you find a pausing point, look over where your crosshairs are, and then look back at your brush and try and copy, making sure that you have a nice fine edge. All right, we're about to approach the house, so before I go all the way down, I'm going to go ahead and stop right there, bring it on over, and just fill in all of this little gap area in the center here, just like that. Now I'm going to go down. If I get a little bit of the house, that's okay. Cool. All right, let me just go along the roof there. All right, cool. So now I've officially released my mouse. All right, if you want to go in small little strokes, you can. Just keep in mind that Photoshop only allows you to go back and undo a certain amount of times. So don't get yourself trapped in not being able to undo something. All right, so to copy and make this lighthouse full, obviously there's no house over here for the lighthouse to hide behind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Alt, and I'm going to steal sides of this lighthouse and continue them down. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to steal this bright side, as we've learned with form, that this bright side means that light is shining on it. So that means that light would be shining on this whole surface off to the edge. So I'm going to try and copy, try to match up the edge there, make it looking pretty nice. All right, and then I'm going to copy a little bit darker. All right, so I'm stealing the pixels off to the side. Whoops, copied the house a little bit. Let me cover that up. There we go. So you can see as I'm continuing across, I'm grabbing the pixels up here because this will gradually get darker. So I want to steal gradually darker pixels, because if I chose a dark shaded area like this to the right and tried to place it over here to the left, yeah, that doesn't look natural. All right, you need to make the light agree with itself. So if the side is touching light, be sure to steal some light pixels and fill it in. All right, great. So now that I have a light side and a dark side of my lighthouse, let me copy some of these rocks to try and cover up some of this lighthouse here. All right, yeah, that looks bright enough. Luckily, rocks are pretty random when it comes down to it, so we could probably just copy something. The main thing you want to try to avoid, though, is noticeable patterns. So like, for instance, before this, I had two of the same type of shadow, and they look exactly alike, and your eyes are going to pick up on that, and it's going to look kind of obvious. So I'm just trying to steal some rocks here, steal something where it doesn't look like an exact pattern. Try and match up some of the rocks. Yeah, that looks pretty legit. Cool. Stealing some of the rocks so that we don't have that gradient. Alright. Because if this were on an island, there wouldn't be a perfect line along the edge there. This lighthouse would probably be tucked away behind some rocks here. So that's all I'm using and doing. There we go. That looks pretty good. Now, as for the ocean here, we accidentally stole some of the mountain range in the background there. So I'm gonna use my Alt, select some of the ocean here, and fill in some areas just to get rid of that. Click on the horizon, go right to the left of the horizon. Click on some of these nice gray clouds up here, steal some of those gray clouds. And you can see it's just that easy to try and fill in any areas that you've accidentally filled in before. Let me kind of smooth out that horizon a little better. There we go, now it looks straight. All right, cool. So let me take care of this sky up here. Try and fill that in a little bit better. All right, and remember, this is only the first tool that I'm going to show you, so this is going to be the vast majority of the lesson here today. It's already been 12 minutes, so thank you for sticking with me so far. I'm just copying some more of this, trying to make that lighthouse look a little bit better. All right, cool. So that's what we'll do for that. As for covering up the previous lighthouse, whenever you select something to get rid of, try to have it so that it seems like something randomly shaped would be behind it. So like clouds. There's no real defined shape of a cloud. Meanwhile, houses, those have a pretty defined shape. So we can be pretty random when it comes to clouds. So I'm just going to select some of this gray area over here, and I'm just going to start to copy this over. It looks like we have a cloud that would probably continue on this side, a little bit of a gap. And these are just small little tiny clicks. Small little tiny clicks. It's like Bob Ross would say, small little tiny brush strokes. If you've never watched Bob Ross, watch it. It's great. Gets you better with the brush tool on Photoshop. And he has one of the most soothing voices of all time. Shout out to Bob Ross. All right, cool. So now comes the difficult part, this little mountain range. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy a little bit of the pixels right here. And you can see where I am copying. My brush is so big that it's going to copy a little bit of the edge of the White House and the edge of the house. So I'm going to go ahead and downsize my brush a little bit here. There we go. That way I can just click like crazy and copy all these trees here. Click. Do. Clicking like crazy. Now your eyes are gonna notice the pattern. You can see it seems like little dark green steps are going every which way down there. That's okay. We'll be able to fix that soon enough here once I show you the Smudge Tool. So I'm just gonna keep clicking away, stealing pixels, putting them everywhere else, trying to cover up this lighthouse since we'll have that nice faded mountain. Maybe I'll grab some of this mountain mist in the background here. Fill that in. Because the cool part is as things go a little bit further away from you distance-wise, they normally get lighter in color. So this might be a very close mountain, this dark green here. And then when it gets further away, we have that nice light gray. Little clicks, little clicks. Cool. Alright, and then I'm just gonna fill in the rest of this with, it looks like there's a little bit of ocean back there, so I'm gonna go over to the right, steal some ocean, and fill this little backdrop in accordingly. With all these little clicks. Get rid of that little observation telescope. Ain't nobody got time for that. Alright, and let's grab some of that island fog over there. Now I'm just going to click, hold, and drag and fill this in. Alright, so we've got a pretty cool color palette going here. We've got the mist coming off of the ocean, blending into some trees, and then we have that faraway fog. Now if I zoom in, you can see it definitely looks like it's photoshopped here. We have all these different hard lines here. So maybe if I adjust my edge hardness, it would be a little bit better. Whoops, kicked the tripod. But instead, I'm just going to use the Smudge Tool. All right, so the Smudge Tool allows us to kind of blur and blend colors together. So you may have an icon that looks like a triangle or a teardrop. Click and hold on that icon, and this is where the Smudge Tool is located. So I'm going to make sure that my brush is decently sized. I'm going to go ahead with 25, and all I'm going to do is click, hold, and drag. And you can see I'm kind of blurring it, which is good because at that distance you wouldn't be able to see all of the fine little trees. Yeah, so all I'm doing is just blurring this by using the Smudge Tool. Kind of smudging it around. Don't smudge the houses. Smudge in some of that nice ocean fog. Smudge some of the ocean here. Cool. And all we're doing is blending. That's all we're doing. And eventually, maybe I'll make it look like a little mountain range here. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. So now I'm going to go ahead and zoom out. And it's looking pretty good. Maybe I'm going to copy some more of that fog, head back to the stamp tool. Yep. Yeah, that's what was needed. There we go. Great. All right, and now I'm going to use my Smudge Tool again and smudge it up. There we go. Need more fog in there. Alright, that's not bad. Looks like a little valley or something. Yep. Cool. Alright, so now the only real giveaway that this photo has been photoshopped is by far the clouds. The clouds, you know, it looks like somebody just took a paintbrush and kind of just scribbled all over the place. I'm going to copy a little bit more of that mountain back there. Make it look a little bit more legit. Now I can smudge it. There we go. That looks much better. Cool. All right. So as for the clouds and everything, let's go ahead and grab our clone stamp tool. And we're really just going to try to cover up this lighthouse here. I'll show you how to cover that up using some different brush types here, which will be our final tool. I'm trying to keep these tutorials relatively close to 20 minutes here, so we're already at 19. So as for the brush tool, activate your brush tool. And I want you to make the foreground color, that top square, white. And let's make the background color some type of gray. There we go. All right. So the main thing I want you to take away from the brush tool is the different brush types. So although I've just been telling you to adjust your size and your edge hardness for all of these different circles, you can actually see once you drop down your brush size option menu that there are plenty of different types of brushes to choose from. So you want to find one that looks like it can make some nice wispy clouds. I'm going to go ahead with this nice 63. And cool thing about the brush tool, you can actually adjust the opacity. All right, so opacity is how solid something looks. So if I click, hold, and drag, you can see that's a pretty solid white line that I made. That's because it's 100% opacity, 100% solid. If I down the opacity to, let's say, 45, now even if I draw over the seagull, you can still see the seagull a little bit. All right, so as for clouds, you want to make a nice light brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead over top. And you almost want to make it like little tiny U's. All right, let me size this down, change up the pattern. That way any of the viewer's eyes can't noticeably see any type of pattern. Sure, if you've ever drawn any clouds in Miss Bitzer's class, it's kind of the same process. Maybe you'll use a fan brush. Let's see what the fan brush looks like in Photoshop here. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, we could use that. Normally it's the other way, but that'll do. Change up the brush. So just experiment with all these different brushes, see what you can find out. Yeah, we'll try this one out. And just by downing that opacity, fills in some areas, and you just want really long brush strokes to try and just blend all of this together. Cool. That may be a little bit too white. I'm going to switch over to my gray. Yeah, that's much better. Cool. Yep, a little bit too white earlier. All right, so that is how you adjust your brush tool. I'm gonna keep going on this until it looks like legitimate clouds. So I'm just painting with the gray brush tool now. The white was a little bit too prominent. So just adjust your opacity every now and then. Remember, long little brush strokes. Keep it horizontal like that. And change up your brush type every now and then just so that you break up the pattern. And that's basically how you make clouds and get rid of a lighthouse. So you can do this with any other image as well. Just use that clone stamp tool, clone some area, replace it onto somewhere else. Try throwing some effects that you've learned from last little tutorial. So any type of gradient, stroke, or any type of drop shadow, inner glow, or anything of the such. But I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial using the clone stamp tool, the smudge tool, and learning all about all the different brush types. Experiment with the brush types. I know that there's a couple things in here that you can create some cool stars if you just click like crazy. So feel free to just experiment with the brushes, figure out what you like, because you're the artist after all. Thank you.